僕にはわからない。でもわからないから聞きたいっぴ。たくさんお話ししてもっと君を知って、静香ちゃん、君に明日こそ笑ってもらえるように。わかんないよ、ごめんね、魔法は今どこにいるのか、隠れるもの、続きはほらどうかまた明日、誰もいない台所さえ。あれ、なんだっけ。
I'm not really that picky when it comes to anime. Usually, if it's got some action, a bit of fighting, maybe a sprinkle of romance here and there, I'm good. And honestly, 2025 has been pretty stacked so far. We've had Solo Leveling, Apothecary Diaries, My Hero Vigilantes, To Be Hero X, Fragrant Flower Blooms of Dignity, and Dandadan, just to name a few. But there's one that completely blindsided me. It wasn't hyped up, barely advertised, and when I first saw it pop up on Crunchyroll, I didn't think much of it. That show is Takopi's Original Sin. At first, I just ignored it for a couple weeks, until I stumbled across a TikTok about it. I finally decided to give it a shot, and after finishing it, I honestly believe that this is anime of the year. Now, okay, hold on. Before you grab your pitchforks and start typing paragraphs about how insert popular title is the real anime of the year, hear me out. This is my video, my opinion, and let's be real, anime of the year is always a popularity contest, with the mainstream battle shonen taking the crown anyway. But in this video, I want to explain why, to me, Takopi's Original Sin deserves that title. The show starts with Shizuka meeting the main character Takopi, a cute little octopus-looking alien from Happy Planet, whose mission is to spread happiness. He accidentally stumbles onto Earth, and right away, you think that this is going to be a simple, wholesome, slice-of-life story. The intro leans into that vibe too. Overly cutesy visuals, colorful animation, almost like a kid's cartoon. But here's the catch. Before the first episode even begins, the show flashes two warnings, one about suicidal behavior and another from the production committee, saying that while the show contains dark themes, it doesn't encourage them. So immediately you're left wondering, what the heck is this actually about? This is the perfect example of subverting expectations. You go in expecting fluff, but those warnings plant a seed of doubt. It's a lot like Doki Doki Literature Club. On the surface, that game looks like a harmless, colorful, visual novel with anime girls. But if you're paying attention, the Steam page gives it the tag psychological horror, and the game even warns you up front that it's not suitable for children. Most people ignore that, but once you notice it, you can't shake the feeling that something is off, and eventually, the game flips everything on its head. That's what Takopi's Original Sin does. It lures you in with a cute alien mascot and a bubbly opening, but behind the visuals, there's this lingering unease, and if you actually look at the lyrics of the opening song, that feeling gets way darker. The lyrics say things like, I send a wish to a star I don't remember. If I slip up, I'll be punished, punished, punished. 1, 2, and I'll hang. If I'm a good girl, will you smile at me? Even when I wake up, I'll be hungry, 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 hungry. The girl I saw in my dreams doesn't exist. Why do you have to die? Why are you angry? Why do I cry? Why do you leave me alone? These words are depressing, but you never know it just listening casually, because the visuals and melody feel so cheerful. Just give it a listen right now. And there is also a repeated line, happy, lucky, choppy, which is sprinkled throughout the song asking, don't leave me and where are you? Which brings up the question of who is Chappie? But enough of that, let's continue to summarize the show. Throughout the first episode, we start to realize Shizuka's life right now isn't as happy as it looks. She's constantly bullied, Marin keeps throwing away her writing boards, and Takopi's little happy gadgets never actually cheer her up. At one point, he even takes a photo with his special camera, though at first, it doesn't seem that important. Then, Takopi visits Shizuka's home and meets her dog, Chappie. Oh no. And if you paid attention to those opening lyrics, you probably already have a pit in your stomach. Shizuka explains that Chappie is all she has left after her dad abandoned the family and her mom, who works as an escort, who is also basically never around. And for a brief moment, Takopi lifts her spirits. He promises to make her happy no matter what, and she finally smiles. But the show doesn't let you stay in that moment. We've seen her bullied before, but not at this level. She holds Chappie's collar even though the dog is gone, clearly struggling with loss. Takopi, in his innocence, tries to help by giving her the friendship ribbon, breaking one of the Happien rules by letting her use it unsupervised. She takes it and leaves. He waits and waits until dread sets in. When he goes to her home, he finds Shizuka has hung herself with that ribbon. Takopi blames himself, and here's where the camera's true purpose is revealed. It lets him rewind time to the moment that picture was taken. Now, I'll pause here for one real nitpick. The happy camera is both the show's biggest hook and its weakest plot device. Time travel is always tricky, because it can erase stakes if not handled carefully. And in the first couple episodes, it feels like Takopi can undo anything. But the show balances this by making him remember everything that happened, so he carries the emotional weight even if events reset. Takopi decides to rewind and follow Shizuka to school, finally seeing how brutal her life really is. That's when we meet Marin, easily one of the most hated characters in the series. And honestly, at first, I hated her too. She seems like a one-note bully making Shizuka's life miserable, but as the episode progresses, we see the twisted reasons behind her cruelty. Her father is seeing Shizuka's mother. Marin lashes out at Shizuka because of it. She becomes a mirror of her own broken home, angry, desperate, violent. One of the most striking scenes is when Takopi, in his innocence, tries to impersonate Shizuka to smooth things over. Instead, Marin beats him, stabs his eye, and forces another reset. For the first time, Takopi feels fear, a devastating moment for a character who only knew happiness. And this is where the show does something brilliant. It doesn't just make Marin a villain, it shows how her behavior is shaped by her toxic home life. Later, we see her mother guilt trip her, blaming her for her father leaving, and the cycle of abuse becomes clear. Marin's actions aren't justified, but they're given context, making her a product of her environment, just like Shizuka. By the end of this episode, which by the way is 37 minutes long compared to the standard 21 minutes of every other episode, the show has set its tone. Takopi's original sin isn't just about bullying or trauma, or even Takopi's innocence colliding with tragedy. It's about how broken parenting and neglect rippled down into children's lives, shaping them in destructive ways. That's the core message that episode 1 leaves you with: the importance of parents and the devastating consequences when that foundation is missing. Episode 2 really centers around two scenes: Chappie and Marin. It starts when Marin sees Shizuka walking Chappie and manipulates the situation to have Chappie bite her. Because of that, he gets ordered to be put down. Takopi, of course, refuses to accept this and keeps using the time camera to rewind again and again, trying to change the outcome. But no matter what he does, Chappie always dies. In the anime, we only see a few of these attempts, but in the manga, it's shown that Takopi rewinds around 100 times before finally giving up. That makes it clear, Chappie's death is inevitable. To make things worse, Shizuka's mom doesn't even tell her the truth. Instead, she lies and says Chappie just went to live with her dad in Tokyo. It's another reminder of how detached and irresponsible her mother is, always dodging the hard conversations instead of supporting her. Later, Marin corners Shizuka in the woods and starts beating her again. This time, Takopi steps in to help. But in doing so, he accidentally kills Marin with the time camera. And then something major happens. The camera stops working. The one gimmick Takopi had been relying on is suddenly gone. For me, this is where the show really hooked me. If the time travel device lasted for the whole story, it would have felt repetitive and stale. But here, the safety net gets ripped away, and the story has to move forward with real consequences. And then there's Marin. This was huge because she's a character we've all hated for from the start. So when she dies, a lot of viewers probably felt a sense of satisfaction. But at the same time, she's still a 10-year-old girl, broken by her own family situation, acting out of pain and anger. Her actions weren't justified, but they weren't without reason either. That's why her deaths feel so complicated. What's even more unsettling is Shizuka's reaction. With Marin gone, she looks happy. It's the first glimpse of her true colors, something that only gets darker as the show goes on. The episode ends with Takopi and Shizuka walking away from Marin's body, as a title finally appears on screen, Takopi's Original Sin. Episode 3 introduces another key character, Azuma, the so-called class smart kid. He was around in episode 1, but here he finally steps into the spotlight. Azuma had actually been following Shizuka and Marin, worried that Marin would actually hurt Shizuka again. But instead of stopping a fight, he walks straight into a crime scene. This is where Shizuka's manipulative side really begins to show. She convinces Azuma to help cover up Marin's death, and Takopi steps in with one of his gadgets to impersonate Marin. This twist even reframes the intro sequence. Those happy scenes with Marin that don't match her character, they might not be Marin at all. It's probably Takopi pretending to be her. But the real focus of this episode is Azuma. At first, it might seem like he goes along with Shizuka's plan just because he has a crush on her, but it's actually much, much deeper than that. We learn that Azuma grew up in his brother's shadow. His brother was perfect academically, and their mother constantly compared them. Whenever Azuma succeeded, he'd get rewarded with pancakes, but he was never able to meet those expectations. He developed this crushing inferiority complex, where he felt like he could never be good enough. So when Shizuka tells him she needs him, it hits him in a way no one else ever has. He finally feels relied on, even if it's for something awful. Later, when he tries to steal his brother's ring because Shizuka told him to, and almost dies, you'd expect him to feel crushed. But when Shizuka laughs it off like it doesn't matter, Azuma is relieved. For the first time, he isn't punished for failing, and that broken validation is what ties him closer to her. Meanwhile, we also get a deeper look into Marin's family life through Takopi impersonating her. His cheerful personality creates a sharp contrast with the dysfunction in her home. Marin's mom eventually realizes something is wrong and almost lashes out at Takopi before pulling back and simply asking for her real daughter back. This moment is a turning point for Takopi. Up until now, he justified killing Marin by convincing himself she was bad and hurting Shizuka, but impersonating her forces him to see that she wasn't just a bully. She was still a child with her own struggles, growing up in a broken home. She wasn't a monster, she was just another kid, caught in the cycle of neglect and abuse. And for the first time, the weight of Takopi's original sin really starts to hit him. By the end of the episode, Takopi begins to realize he can't just keep pretending. He doesn't want to go through with Shizuka's manipulative plans anymore. He wants to come clean. Also, at the end of the episode, some construction workers actually find Marin's pod thing when they buried her, so we know that something will go down the next episode. Episode 4 might honestly be my favorite in the entire series, because it really dives deep into Azuma's character and the crushing guilt that comes with being an accomplice. The weight of what happened eats away at him, and it even shows up in small ways, like completely blanking on a test and failing it. Instead of supporting him, his mom twists the knife deeper, guilt-tripping him by saying she doesn't even care about test scores anymore. Because if you don't care, why should I? It's a brutal moment that just reinforces how little validation Azuma ever gets at home. This pushes him to become even more dependent on someone else, and that someone else is Shizuka. She takes advantage of this fragile state and asks him to turn himself in for her. It creates a major conflict inside Azuma. Does he give himself up just because she needs him, or does he try to break free from this toxic cycle? And here's where the show shines. We get to see more of Azuma's past and how deeply his brother's shadow affected him. It's another example of how Takopi's original sin portrays family dynamics. Shizuka comes from neglect, Marin from abuse, and Ozma from suffocating pressure. All three show different ways parents can unintentionally destroy their kids. In the end, Ozma agrees to Shizuka's request, because she's the only person he believes he has to rely on. But then something unexpected happens. At home, he finally shares a heartfelt moment with his older brother, the same brother he thought he was always competing against. That one moment completely reframes everything. Ozma realizes it was never truly a competition. The rivalry was something his mom forced on him, not something his brother ever believed in. For the first time, he understands that he doesn't have to carry the burden alone. It's a beautiful way to close out Ozma's story. He's no longer trapped in the shadow of perfection or crushed by the need to be relied on by Shizuka. But with Ozma's arc resolved, the spotlight shifts because now Shizuka is on the run. Episode 5 is where everything comes crashing down. Shizuka finally makes it to Tokyo, hoping to see her dad and Chappie, but instead she makes a brutal discovery. Her father already has other kids. He's moved on, forgotten about her and her mom completely. To make it worse, he doesn't even acknowledge her in front of them. He says he doesn't even know why she calls him dad. At that moment, Shizuka realizes she has no one. We've already seen how manipulative Shizuka can be, but here she takes it to another level. She demands that Takopi give her happy gadgets so she can take her half-siblings, cut them open, and save Chappie. Takopi refuses, and when she realizes he's no longer useful to her, she tries to kill him too. But that's when the biggest twist of the series hits. Takopi finally remembers why he can't go back to Planet Happy. His original sin wasn't about killing Marin at all. It was something much deeper, and we learn he was actually supposed to be helping Marin all along. This reveal completely flips the story, and even the episode titles add to the weight. Episode 1 is To You in 2016, and Episode 5 is To You in 2022, echoing Attack on Titan's style of time jumps. In this timeline, Marin is now a teenager, with a scar from her mother, still carrying the trauma we'd only glimpsed before. From her perspective, we finally see how bad her home life was, and how her mom's abuse pushed her over the edge. Marin starts dating Ozma, but he leaves her for Shizuka. This pushes her mother into a frenzy, and in the chaos, Marin kills her. When Takopi returns, he finds Marin bloody and broken, muttering that Shizuka should have died instead. Takopi makes a drastic choice. He'll use the happy clock to go back in time and kill Shizuka while she's still in elementary school. But while doing this, his mother takes away his memories and banishes him from Planet Happy. Still, he manages to reset the timeline. This is what makes Takopi's original sin so brilliant. It flips your feelings about the two main characters. At first, you sympathize with Shizuka, but eventually grow to dislike her and her manipulative nature. With Marin, you probably hated her early on, but by the end, you start to understand her pain. It's not about who is good or bad. It's about how trauma shapes people, and how people can be both. Ozma even tells Takopi directly, there isn't just good and evil. People can be both at once. In the finale, Takopi waits at the spot where both Shizuka and Marin once met him. Eventually, Shizuka returns, and we see in the newspaper that she did kidnap her half-siblings, but thankfully she brought them back alive. Takopi tries to reason with her, and for the first time, he just listens. They share a quiet, emotional moment, and Takopi finally understands. Sometimes helping doesn't mean fixing. It just means being there. He spends a few days with her before making his final choice. Takopi uses the camera one last time at the cost of his own life. Even though he won't be there anymore, the kids will get one last restart. Somehow, both Marin and Shizuka keep faint memories of him. And in this new timeline, they grow up together, able to bond over that shared loss. It's bittersweet. Marin still bears her scar, but this time she and Shizuka survive. Now, the ending is definitely controversial. Some people don't like that Takopi could just reset everything with the camera, but really, this was never a story about logic. He's an alien with gadgets from Planet Happy. It doesn't need to make perfect sense. The point of the story is to shine a light on the harsh realities kids face in a broken households. Takopi's final lesson, that sometimes listening is more powerful than fixing, is what gives the story its heart. And honestly, for a 6-episode anime, Takopi's original sin deserves Anime of the Year. The emotional storytelling, the music, the characters, it all works. Sure, it's not flashy like Solo Leveling Season 2 or full of hype fights, but sometimes the most impactful stories are the ones that tackle the things we don't want to talk about. Hey, thanks for sticking around till the end of the video. If you like the content, make sure to drop a like and hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out and lets me know you want more videos like this. If you haven't checked out my last video, there's a link. You'll notice the audio is a bit rough, but honestly, it still has some pretty interesting stuff in there. I didn't even expect it to hit 1,000 views, so thank you so much for the support. And yeah, I know I didn't go over all the deeper meanings in Takopi's original sin. There's a ton more to talk about, so let me know your takes down in the comments. I'd love to hear them. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.